You're tuned to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show, or a podcast. Jeannie Roller is my co-host. Jeannie is in Indiana. I am in Florida. Jeannie, today we're going to talk about this information that I just recently learned, and it's about men's health care. And I am so happy that more of this is being told out in society, where we always knew about women in menopause. We talked about it. Maybe it was hush-hush, however many years ago or whatever. You know, ladies talked about it, you know, in the private, whatever, with the doctors or with their girlfriends. And estrogen levels, estrogen replacement, progesterone, those kind of things, and menopause. But menopause is what I call it, and I've got several friends that are in the middle of it right now. I am so glad that now we're talking about testosterone replacement and peptides and things like that, because, I mean, men go through maybe not exactly the same thing that we do as women, but men go through different changes in their life. I mean, it's only natural to even think that something like that would happen, because people's bodies do break down. And I'm glad that there are now facilities isn't the right word, but there are different avenues, like not workout places, but those kind of things that are addressing these things, where men can go in and they can have their testosterone level checked, their other levels in their body checked, so you know exactly right. It takes 5-10 minutes. It's in a setting that's not so sterile, if you will. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it like it's more friendly. It's a homey kind of thing, where it's not, I always think of the sterile settings, the overhead lights and those kind of things that are blaring at you. We know those all too well, Jeannie. But this one's in a more friendly atmosphere, where it's hopefully easier to talk about different things, the testosterone levels, your muscle loss. A lot of men are overweight. It happens to women. You get that punch in your middle of gut that you seemingly can't get rid of forever. Sexual dysfunction happens to both men and women. There's no shame about any of it at all. I mean, it does happen when you get older, different things like that. But having said all of that, having a conversation with someone that runs one of these places, the men were telling their different stories and stuff to a female nurse. And I had said to the one gentleman, the one owner, do you realize that a lot of men in medical settings are being sexually assaulted? And he looked at me as if I had 3 different heads. And I said, yes, it's true. I said, you know how women that are raped, oftentimes it doesn't come, to a police case or whatever, because the women are ashamed. They think that they did something wrong. I said it's no different from men in a medical setting as well, to be sexually assaulted and to have the same feelings that they should, maybe even more so, because men always feel like they should fix it. They should be manly. They should do macho. They should do this. And I said, talking with a female nurse in that setting like that, if you're going to talk about testosterone levels, sexual dysfunction, those kind of things that are maybe having problems with your marriage or whatever. If I was a guy, I wouldn't necessarily want to be talking to a woman about that. And you and I talk about that on this podcast so many times, that why aren't men given the option, if they want to talk with a female or a male nurse or medical person? So I mentioned to him, and he said, I've never heard that. And I said, think about it, because you're trying to you have a fabulous facility. You're trying to make this easy for men. You're trying to make it, in the forefront. But, that's the next step that needs to happen. It should have happened all along, but, you didn't know. But now I'm telling you, it is out there. It is prevalent, and people are, they're leery of it. So, it might just help so many more men to be addressed, and for them to address their needs. Anyway, your thoughts on it, Jeannie?
Well, yeah, I totally agree, Cindy. I mean, I know a lot of men that I have talked with, they would not open up to a female. And especially if the setting is less formal, I feel they might be less likely, because then it wouldn't be the nurse in the uniform, but, more of a home setting where they wouldn't feel maybe as comfortable. I also think that sometimes when men are forced to deal with women providers for intimate matters, that's when you get the stereotype of a guy being flirty or, handsy with the medical staff, because a lot of men do that to cover their embarrassment. They act
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
like they're a ladies' man, and they kind
Right.
of, go overboard. So yeah, I think that it might be easier for men, some men, not all men, to be able to talk to a male provider rather than a female. And that's the same with women. Some women are comfortable talking to male providers, some are not.
Right.
So there should always be that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I might say about men suffering sexual assault, there's also sexual abuse. And that's a little different, and a lot of times patients may not even know they're being sexually abused, and one form of sexual abuse is unnecessary intimate exposure.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people will not go to the doctor for fear of that happening. So I think that a lot of men, especially, will not go to a female provider, or if they know there is a female chaperone, because they don't want to be intimately exposed,
Right.
especially unnecessarily,
Right.
to these providers. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, but, you know, when you talk about women's clinics, most of them are female providers. There's
Right.
not usually a male
Yeah.
nurse or a male chaperone in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. They do
So
that.
I
Yeah.
mean,
They do that definitely with mammograms and stuff. It's an
yeah.
all female tech and stuff. So I get that. Yeah. I'm with you, Jeannie. I'm just enamored that these kind of clinics, facilities, whatever opportunities are out there now for men. But yeah, address the total issue. And it's sad that the stories aren't out there. I don't want them to happen. I don't want the stories to happen at all. But it's sad that more people don't know that this is happening. That men are
Right.
getting exploited and assaulted just as women are in medical settings and in other settings. It's, that you have to be mindful of it, and you have to, make it comfortable for everyone. And I want to see more men get help if they feel that they need the help for that. Why shouldn't these men live their best lives too? Like women get help, for the
Right,
estrogen and
right.
progesterone. I mean, I'm kudos, absolutely kudos.
Yeah. And, the other thing is, I don't want the female health providers to feel sexually harassed by these men who have to put on these airs that, they're hitting on the women because of wanting to cover up their embarrassment of having to talk about intimate subjects, or even having an intimate exam done. I don't want that happening. So it would be best if we did offer both male and or female providers,
Mm-hmm.
so that maybe less of that would happen, because you shouldn't be sexually harassed as a provider either.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I, as a woman, would not want to, if I was a nurse or whatever, and that was my key thing, I would want to opt out of something like that. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just can't. And it's this across the board. Everybody's seen everything in a medical setting. I'm sorry, I'm never going to buy into that mindset. I'm not.
no.
I'm always going to buy into that it's an individual thing, and people are allowed to have their feelings, and people shouldn't have to wear their wares, if you will, just to be able to get care that is appropriate for them. In other words, you shouldn't have to be telling your whole back history when you say, I feel more comfortable with a female provider, or I feel more comfortable with a male provider. It's not anything that's biased. It's not we've talked about that. It's not anything that's derogatory. It isn't. It's just your own personal, the way it works best for you. And they say
Right.
sometimes there's just not time elements. There's not enough people to go around or whatever. But if you've scheduled these things, you certainly have people on staff in different ways that you could make the effort to do that. And it is not everyone that's doing it. It isn't. But the people that are seriously have been injured in the past need to be taken seriously for that specific reason at that time. Jeannie, anyway, we got a couple
Right.
seconds left. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And that's the thing. Some people won't speak up with
Right.
their fears,
Right,
and
right. Yeah.
they'll either suffer in silence, or they won't go to an appointment.
Yep. On that note, don't suffer in silence. Here we go.